Chosen one, your true identity will shock you, because it is not the identity you built while trying to survive. It is not the quiet mask. It is not the anxious version. It is not the person who learned to shrink, explain, apologize, overthink, and disappear just to keep peace in rooms that never truly honored your spirit. That was survival. That was adaptation. That was what you became when life demanded strength from you before you even understood your own soul. And this is not reaching you by accident. Something higher has a way of interrupting a person right before they mistake a painful chapter for their permanent name. You have been called too sensitive, too deep, too different, too intense, too hard to understand. But what if those were not insults? What if they were distorted descriptions of gifts people did not know how to value? What if your sensitivity was discernment? What if your isolation was formation? What if your delay was protection? What if your pain was not proof that you were broken, but evidence that something rare in you was being refined? Please listen carefully, chosen one, because this is not just about feeling encouraged for a few minutes. If you stay with this until the end, you are going to understand why certain names never fit you, why certain rooms always drained you, why your spirit kept rejecting the life everyone expected you to accept, and why the version of you that is emerging now may feel unfamiliar, but deeply true. You will also learn how to separate the survival version of you from the real version of you, so you do not keep calling fear your personality, silence your peace, or hiding your humility. Because once you see the difference between who you became to survive and who you were created to be, you will not be able to return to the old mirror. For a long time, chosen one, people may have tried to name you before they understood you. They saw your depth and called it being complicated. They saw your sensitivity and called it weakness. They saw your silence and called it distance. They saw your boundaries and called it pride. They saw your discernment and called it judgment. They saw your intensity and called it too much. And if you hear something long enough, especially from people you wanted to love you, part of you starts wondering if maybe they were right. Maybe I am too sensitive. Maybe I am difficult. Maybe I do expect too much. Maybe something is wrong with me. Maybe I should be easier to understand. Maybe I should need less. Maybe I should feel less. Maybe I should stop noticing so much. That is how a false name enters a person. It does not always arrive as an insult, shouted across a room. Sometimes it arrives as a look, a withdrawal, a repeated disappointment, a relationship where you always had to explain your heart to someone who had already decided not to hear it. And slowly, you begin adjusting yourself around the name they gave you. You become quieter, not because you have nothing to say, but because your words were punished before. You become overly agreeable, not because you have no opinions, but because disagreement once cost you connection. You become self-protective, not because your heart is cold, but because your warmth was mishandled by people who only wanted access, not intimacy. You become careful, too careful. You become polite when you are hurt. You become useful when you are exhausted. You become low maintenance when your soul is starving for real understanding. And then one day, chosen one, you look in the mirror and you do not know whether you are seeing yourself or the person you became to avoid being wounded again. But hear this clearly. The name they gave you was never the name written over you. The version of you that learned to survive is not evil. It protected you. It helped you endure seasons you did not have the language to explain. It kept you moving when your heart was heavy. It kept you functioning when you were secretly breaking. So do not hate that version, but do not worship it either. Do not build a whole life around the version of you that was created in pain. Because your true identity is older than the rejection. It is deeper than the misunderstanding. It is stronger than the silence you used to hide inside. And it is beginning to rise. That is why certain things no longer feel comfortable to you. That is why the conversations that used to entertain you now leave you tired. That is why some environments feel heavy before anyone even says a word. That is why you can sit in a room full of people and still feel like your spirit is standing somewhere else. For years, You may have thought this meant you were disconnected. You wondered why you could not just relax and fit in. You wondered why shallow things felt so loud to you. You wondered why certain friendships required you to become smaller just to stay accepted. You wondered why people could call it peace when you could feel the tension under every smile. Chosen one, what if you were never meant to fit everywhere? What if your inability to blend into every room was not a social failure, but a spiritual signal? What if your spirit was rejecting environments your mind was still trying to tolerate? What if the exhaustion you felt around certain people was not weakness, but information? There are rooms that celebrate your mask, but fear your truth. There are people who love the version of you that serves them, but become uncomfortable when the real you begins to speak. There are connections that only work as long as you keep betraying your own spirit. And when you start waking up, those places begin to feel tight. Not because you are better than anyone, not because you are above anyone, but because the identity forming inside you can no longer breathe in spaces built for your old self. This is why isolation often comes before revelation. Before Joseph stood in a palace, he had to survive a pit, a betrayal, a prison, and years of being unseen. Before his true identity was visible to others, it had to be formed in places where no one clapped for him. That is the part most people do not like. They want the crown, but not the hidden years. They want the recognition, but not the refining. They want the open door, but not the season where every false attachment is stripped away. But chosen one, hidden, does not mean forgotten. Buried does not mean dead. Quiet does not mean powerless. Sometimes a seed looks buried when it is actually planted. Sometimes a soul looks delayed when it is actually being protected from entering the right place with the wrong identity. Sometimes the divine allows you to be misunderstood because if the wrong people understood your value too soon, they would have tried to use it before you knew how to protect it. Think about that. There were parts of you that had to remain covered until you became strong enough to carry them without handing them to anyone who smiled at you. Your compassion had to be covered until you stopped confusing access with love. Your voice had to be covered until you stopped using it to beg people to understand you. Your vision had to be covered until you stopped sharing sacred things with people who only knew how to mock what they could not control. Your sensitivity had to be covered until you learned that feeling deeply does not mean you have to absorb everything. You were not broken, chosen one. You were covered, and there is a difference. Broken means something essential was destroyed. Covered means something essential was protected until the right time. Broken means the story is over. Covered means the story has been hidden from the wrong eyes. Broken means there is nothing left to reveal. Covered means the mirror is still there, but the cloth has not yet been lifted. And now, something in you is beginning to pull that cloth away. That is why the old names do not feel believable anymore. That is why the old version of you feels too small. That is why you may feel restless, not because you are lost, but because the person you are becoming is pressing against the person you kept pretending to be. For a moment, without moving your body, without needing to write anything down, I want you to do something inside yourself. Imagine every false name that was placed on you like a heavy garment around your shoulders. Too sensitive, too difficult, too quiet, too intense, too damaged, too lot, too much, not enough. Now, inside your spirit, do not fight them, do not argue with them, do not explain yourself to them. Just see them for what they are. Old fabric, old weight, old language, names spoken by people who saw your reaction, but not your wound. People who saw your boundaries, but not your exhaustion. People who saw your silence, but not the years of being unheard that created it. And now, imagine one quiet truth rising underneath all of it. That was not my name. Let that sentence move through you. That was not my name. Because the most dangerous prison is not the one other people put you in. It is the one you keep decorating because you think it is home. And some of you have been living inside an identity that was built from survival. but calling it your personality. You say, "This is just who I am." But is it? Are you truly distant, or did closeness become unsafe? Are you truly indecisive, or were your choices criticized until you stopped trusting yourself? Are you truly cold, or did too many people take warmth from you without giving care back? Are you truly invisible, or did you learn to hide because being seen once came with pain? These questions matter, chosen one, because your true identity cannot fully rise while you keep defending the mask that pain created. Again, the mask helped you. Honor it, but do not confuse it with your face. The survival version of you is not your enemy, but it is not your destiny. And this is where the first shock begins. You were not weak because you felt deeply. You were not strange because you noticed what others ignored. You were not cursed because certain doors closed. You were not forgotten because certain people left. You were not behind because the path took longer than you expected. What looked like rejection was sometimes redirection. What looked like loneliness was sometimes separation. What looked like delay was sometimes preparation. What looked like silence was sometimes protection. And what looked like a broken identity was actually a covered one. There is a part of you that has been waiting beneath the noise, a part that still knows how to hear truth, a part that still recognizes what is real, a part that refuses to become bitter, even after being given many reasons to harden, a part that keeps searching for meaning, even when life has been confusing, a part that still believes there is something sacred about your existence, even when your circumstances have tried to convince you otherwise. That part of you is not imaginary. That part is evidence. It is evidence that your true identity did not die in the season that wounded you. It was hidden. It was guarded. It was being formed where applause could not corrupt it and rejection could not define it. And I hear this strongly for someone listening right now. You were not hidden because you were forgotten. You were hidden because what is inside you needed protection before it needed exposure. But the most shocking part is still ahead, because it is one thing to realize people gave you false names. It is another thing to realize how much of your daily life has been built around answering to those names. The next truth may feel uncomfortable, but it will also set something free in you, because your true identity is not only hidden beneath what others said about you, it is hidden beneath what you started believing about yourself. And that is where the real separation begins. Because when you start looking at what you believe about yourself, you may discover that some of your deepest truths were actually old injuries wearing the voice of wisdom. You say, "I am not good with people." But maybe you learned that after being surrounded by people who only loved you when you performed. You say, "I do not trust myself." But maybe that started when your choices were mocked, corrected, controlled, or questioned until your own inner voice became quiet. You say, "I am not ready." But maybe readiness has been hiding behind the fear of what will happen if you finally stop playing small. Chosen one, this is where you must be honest with yourself in a way that is gentle, but not soft enough to lie. Because the survival version of you has been pretending to be your personality for a very long time. Your silence may not be peace. Your overthinking may not be wisdom. Your distance may not be maturity. Your need to explain yourself may not be clarity. Your habit of expecting disappointment may not be discernment. Sometimes it is not who you are. Sometimes it is what happened to you, repeating itself through your reactions. And this matters because your true identity cannot rise while your survival habits keep speaking in its place. There is a version of you that says yes when your spirit says no. There is a version of you that smiles when your chest feels heavy. There is a version of you that keeps relationships alive by abandoning yourself little by little. There is a version of you that calls it patience when it is really fear of conflict. There is a version of you that calls it forgiveness when it is really fear of losing access to someone. There is a version of you that calls it humility when it is really fear of being seen. And none of this means you are bad. It means you adapted. It means you survived. It means your nervous system learned how to keep you safe in places where your soul did not feel free. But safety is not the same as identity. A cage can feel safe if you have lived inside it long enough. A mask can feel like a face if you have worn it for years. A false name can feel like truth if everyone around you keeps repeating it. So the question is not, who have I been acting like? The question is, who was I before fear started teaching me how to behave? That question may feel uncomfortable because it pulls you out of autopilot. It makes you look at the habits you keep defending. It makes you notice the difference between the voice of your soul and the voice of your wound. Your wound says, hide before they reject you. Your soul says, be honest and let what cannot honor honesty fall away. Your wound says, stay small so nobody attacks you. Your soul says, you were not given light so you could keep it locked in a room. Your wound says, do not trust the good thing because good things disappear. Your soul says, receive slowly, but do not reject every blessing just because pain taught you suspicion. This is why your true identity can feel shocking, not because it comes from nowhere, but because it sounds so different from the fear you have been obeying. There is a part of you that still knows how to recognize truth when it arrives. There is a part of you that still knows when a room is not clean, even if everyone is smiling. There is a part of you that can feel when someone's words are soft, but their intention is heavy. There is a part of you that understands patterns before other people admit there is a pattern. And for a long time, you may have hated that part of yourself. You may have thought, why can I not just ignore things? Why do I feel so much? Why do I notice changes in energy? Why do I pick up on what people are not saying? Why do I sense distance before someone admits they are pulling away? Why do I feel exhausted after conversations that everyone else calls normal? Chosen one, what if this was never the flaw? What if this was the gift before it had language? What if your sensitivity was discernment before you knew how to protect it? What if your depth was not a problem, but a responsibility? What if the reason shallow spaces drained you is because your spirit was not built to live on the surface? This is the second shock. The thing you kept trying to mute may be one of the clearest signs of who you are. You kept trying to become less sensitive, but maybe you were supposed to become more anchored. You kept trying to stop noticing, but maybe you were supposed to learn what to do with what you notice. You kept trying to fit into rooms that required you to turn your gift down, but maybe the discomfort was warning you that your identity was not safe there. There are signs that appear when the real you begins pressing through the survival version. They do not always look spiritual at first. Sometimes they look like exhaustion, not ordinary tiredness, not the kind that disappears after sleep. I mean the deep tiredness of carrying a self that is no longer true. You can rest your body and still feel heavy because your spirit is tired of performing. You can sleep and still wake up with pressure inside because the life you are living does not match the truth rising within you. You can be around people and still feel lonely because they know your role but not your essence. That kind of fatigue is not always a sign that you are failing. Sometimes it is the body refusing to keep paying the cost of a false identity. Then there are emotional waves. You may feel peace one moment and sadness the next. You may feel hope, then grief, then a strange quiet. You may remember something from years ago and suddenly understand it differently. You may feel tears rise, not because something terrible happened that day, but because something old inside you is finally being allowed to leave. Do not call every wave instability. Some waves are the soul releasing what the mind was too busy to process. Some waves are old names losing their grip. Some waves are the buried self coming back to the surface. And then there is the change in tolerance. This one is powerful. You may notice that certain conversations feel impossible now, not because you hate anyone, not because you are arrogant, but because your spirit can no longer sit comfortably inside what once kept you asleep. The gossip that once entertained you now drains you. The drama that once pulled you in now feels expensive. The relationships where you had to shrink now feel suffocating. The environments where you had to pretend now feel like clothing that no longer fits. And you may feel guilty about this. You may think, why am I changing? Why do I not enjoy what I used to enjoy? Why do I feel distant from people I once felt close to? But sometimes distance is not rejection. Sometimes distance is recognition. Your soul is recognizing what your old self tolerated. Your spirit is recognizing what your true identity cannot carry forward. This is why some people will misunderstand your growth. They will say you changed, and they will be right. But they may not understand that the change is not betrayal. It is emergence. You are not becoming cruel. You are becoming clear. You are not becoming cold. You are becoming honest. You are not becoming distant. You are becoming unavailable to what kept you divided inside. There may also be a strange increase in dreams, signs, and inner impressions. Maybe you keep seeing repeated numbers at moments when you are questioning yourself. Maybe a sentence from someone's conversation reaches you at the exact time your spirit needs it. Maybe a memory returns and suddenly carries, meaning it never carried before. Maybe you dream of roads, doors, water, childhood places, old houses, lost objects, or people from your past. Do not rush to turn every sign into a dramatic prediction. That is not wisdom. But do not ignore the fact that your inner world may be speaking through symbols because your outer life has become too loud. Sometimes the soul uses pictures before it uses words. Sometimes your deeper self begins sending messages through memory, dream, discomfort, and desire because your conscious mind has been trained to dismiss direct truth. And there is one more sign that many chosen ones feel but rarely admit: the fear of being seen. You may think you are afraid of failure, but sometimes you are more afraid of success. You are afraid that if you step into your true identity, people will expect more from you. You are afraid that if you speak with clarity, people will challenge you. You are afraid that if you stop hiding, the same world that misunderstood your smallness will attack your light. You are afraid that if you become visible, you will lose the safety of being underestimated. And this fear can make you sabotage the very doors you prayed would open. You delay. You distract yourself. You keep preparing. You keep waiting for one more confirmation. You keep telling yourself, not yet. But beneath that delay, there may be a deeper sentence. If I become who I really am, I cannot go back. And that sentence is true. You cannot fully wake up and return to sleep with the same comfort. You cannot see your false identity clearly and keep pretending it is your destiny. You cannot recognize your voice and keep living as if you have nothing to say. You cannot feel the weight of your calling and keep treating your life like an accident. This is not pressure. This is invitation. You do not have to become everything in one day. You do not have to explain your transformation to everyone. You do not have to announce your growth to people who benefit from your confusion. But you do have to stop betraying the truth when it rises inside you. There is a simple inner action I want you to take right now, wherever you are. Do not move. Do not perform anything outwardly. Just let your inner attention turn toward the version of you that keeps asking for permission. Picture that version standing at a closed door. Behind the door is not fame, not attention, not applause. Behind the door is honesty. Behind the door is the life where you no longer have to keep proving that your pain was real. Behind the door is the voice you stopped using. Behind the door is the peace that does not require self-abandonment. Now imagine placing one sentence on that door. I am allowed to become true, not perfect, not impressive, not accepted by everyone. True. Let that sentence sit inside you. I am allowed to become true. Because this is where many chosen ones get stuck. They are willing to heal as long as healing does not change the way other people access them. They are willing to grow as long as growth does not disappoint anyone. They are willing to become powerful as long as no one feels threatened by it. They are willing to receive a new identity as long as they do not have to release the old agreements that kept them small. But your true identity will require permission. Not permission from them, permission from you. You are allowed to outgrow the version of yourself that survived by staying silent. You are allowed to outgrow the rooms where your spirit had to hold its breath. You are allowed to outgrow relationships that only know how to love you when you are useful. You are allowed to outgrow the need to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding you. You are allowed to outgrow the fear that your light will make you unsafe. And you do not owe anyone an apology for becoming who you were always intended to be. Still, there is a warning here. Do not turn this awakening into pride. Do not hear the words "chosen one" and use them to look down on others. That is not identity. That is ego trying to wear sacred language. Your true identity does not make you superior. It makes you responsible. The deeper your discernment, the more carefully you must speak. The stronger your light, the more humble your walk must become. The greater your calling, the less room you have for bitterness, revenge, and performance. Because the goal is not to prove people wrong. The goal is to become so whole that their wrong opinion no longer controls your inner world. This is where your sensitivity becomes discernment. This is where your pain becomes medicine. This is where your isolation becomes formation. This is where your voice becomes service. This is where your story stops being a prison and starts becoming a key. You may be a truth carrier. That means you cannot live comfortably inside lies, even when the lie is popular, convenient, or emotionally easy. You may be a cycle breaker. That means certain patterns had to become unbearable to you because you were not sent to repeat them. You may be a light bearer. That means your presence can reveal what people have been hiding, not because you are trying to expose them, but because light naturally shows what is there. You may be a wounded healer. That means your pain is not your identity. But once it is healed, it can become language, compassion, and medicine for someone else. You may be a voice. That means you carry words for things other people feel but cannot yet say. But listen carefully. A gift without healing can become a burden. Discernment without love can become suspicion. Sensitivity without boundaries can become exhaustion. A voice without humility can become noise. A calling without formation can become performance. So if you are being shaped slowly, do not despise the pace. If the door has not opened yet, do not assume you are rejected. If you feel hidden, do not assume you are forgotten. The hidden place may be where your gift learns purity. The waiting place may be where your identity learns strength. The lonely place may be where your voice learns to stop begging for permission. This is why your true identity is not just about what you carry. It is about who you are becoming while carrying it. And now we have to go one layer deeper. Because there is something that happens to the mind when a person lives too long in survival. The mind begins to expect resistance. The mind begins to search for danger. The mind begins to lower its own vision because dreaming too freely feels unsafe. And for many chosen ones, this becomes one of the most painful contradictions of their life. Deep down, they know they were made for more. But when they try to move toward more, their mind pulls them back into old fear. They feel cold, but foggy, gifted, but blocked, intuitive, but overwhelmed, sensitive, but exhausted, aware, but unable to act. And this is not just spiritual language. There is a real connection between your inner state, your attention, your nervous system, and the way your gifts express themselves. When a person lives in survival long enough, even their imagination can start living in a cage. Their prayers become smaller. Their choices become safer. Their intuition becomes harder to hear beneath the noise. Their creativity becomes buried under pressure. Their identity is still there, but the signal becomes weak. That is why the next truth matters so much. Because your true identity is not only hidden beneath what people said about you. It is not only hidden beneath what you believed about yourself. Sometimes it is hidden beneath the state your mind has been trapped in for years. And once you understand that, you will realize something powerful. You are not empty. You are not without guidance. You are not without gifts. You may simply be trying to hear your original self through too much static. And when the static begins to clear, The shock will not be that you suddenly became chosen. The shock will be that the signal was there the whole time. And that signal is not trying to create someone new. It is trying to bring the original you back online. That is the part many people miss, chosen one. They think transformation means becoming a completely different person. They think healing means erasing everything they have been through. They think purpose means inventing some impressive version of themselves that never feels fear, never gets tired, never questions, never trembles before the weight of what they are called to carry. But that is not what is happening here. You are not becoming someone else. You are returning to the self that existed before fear trained you to shrink. You are returning to the voice that was there before rejection taught you to whisper. You are returning to the discernment that was there before people convinced you that noticing too much was a problem. You are returning to the courage that was there before disappointment taught you to expect the worst. You are returning to the tenderness that was there before life made you think softness was dangerous. This is the mega revelation. Your true identity is not something you have to perform. It is something you have to stop betraying. It is not something you have to chase. It is something you have to agree with. It is not hiding because it is weak. It has been waiting because you were not ready to carry it without giving it away to the wrong people, the wrong rooms, the wrong stories, and the wrong definitions of love. Chosen one, the world trained you to believe that identity is something you prove. So you tried to prove you were good enough. You tried to prove you were loyal enough. You tried to prove you were useful enough. You tried to prove you were healed enough. You tried to prove you were not difficult, not selfish, not too sensitive, not too deep, not too different, not too hard to love. But your true identity does not need that kind of proving. A seed does not prove it is a tree by screaming from under the soil. It becomes, quietly, deeply, faithfully. It lets the darkness do what darkness was meant to do. It lets the pressure break the shell. It lets the hidden season create roots before height. And when the time comes, it does not ask the soil for permission to rise. That is what is happening inside you. Something that was buried is not dead. Something that was silent is not empty. Something that was covered is not gone. Something that was delayed is not denied. Something that was misunderstood is not meaningless. The true you has been forming beneath the false names. The true you has been breathing beneath the survival habits. The true you has been listening beneath the static. And now, as the static begins to clear, the question is no longer, who hurt me? The question becomes, who am I when the wound is no longer in charge? Who am I when rejection is no longer choosing my relationships? Who am I when fear is no longer choosing my silence? Who am I when shame is no longer choosing my posture? Who am I when survival is no longer choosing the size of my dreams? That is where identity becomes sacred, because a person who knows who they are cannot be controlled the same way. They can still be hurt, but they are not easily renamed. They can still be misunderstood, but they are not easily moved out of their center. They can still lose people, but they do not lose themselves just to keep company. They can still walk through delay, but they do not call delay denial. They can still feel fear, but they do not let fear become the final authority. This is why your true identity will shock you. It will shock you because you will realize how much of your life was built around protecting a version of yourself that was never meant to lead forever. It will shock you because you will realize that your old smallness was not humility. It was fear dressed in acceptable clothing. It will shock you because you will realize that your silence was not always wisdom. Sometimes it was pain trying not to be punished again. It will shock you because you will realize that your exhaustion was not always laziness. Sometimes it was your spirit paying the price for living out of alignment with truth. And it will shock you because deep down, beneath everything, you always knew there was more. Not more in a greedy way, not more in a prideful way, more depth, more clarity, more purpose, more honesty, more authority, more peace that does not require you to abandon yourself. There is a version of you that does not need chaos to feel alive. There is a version of you that does not confuse anxiety with intuition. There is a version of you that does not chase people who only love your availability. There is a version of you that does not apologize for needing stillness. There is a version of you that does not beg to be chosen by people who cannot recognize what they are looking at. And that version is not far away. It is beneath the agreements you are ready to break. The agreement that says, I must stay small to stay safe. The agreement that says, I must explain myself to be worthy. The agreement that says, I must keep carrying what drains me because people expect me to. The agreement that says, I must hide my light because visibility feels dangerous. The agreement that says, I must remain loyal to the old version of me because other people are comfortable with it. Chosen one, your true identity begins rising the moment you stop signing those agreements in silence. And this is where many people will try to pull you back. Not always because they are evil. Sometimes because your transformation forces them to confront their own lack of movement. Sometimes because your clarity removes their access to your confusion. Sometimes because your boundaries interrupt the version of you they knew how to use. Sometimes because your healing changes the rules of relationships that were built around your wounds. So when people say, you changed, do not rush to defend yourself. Let it be true. Yes, you changed. You changed because the old version of you was built for survival, not destiny. You changed because peace started mattering more than approval. You changed because your soul became tired of being loyal to its own shrinking. You changed because something higher began calling you out of a false identity and into the life that matches your spirit. That does not mean you become harsh. It does not mean you become arrogant. It does not mean you start treating people like they are beneath you. No, real identity makes you more grounded, not more inflated. Real calling makes you more responsible, not more reckless. Real healing makes you more compassionate, not more superior. Because the purpose of being chosen is not to stand above people. It is to stand in truth without collapsing under the pressure to become false again. Moses did not feel ready when the call came. He had excuses. He had fear. He questioned his voice. He questioned his ability. He looked at the weight of the assignment and saw every reason why someone else should carry it. But the calling was not based on his confidence. It was based on what had been placed in him before he fully understood it. Esther did not begin in a palace because she understood the full meaning of her life. She was hidden before she was revealed, positioned before she understood why, prepared before the moment demanded courage. And when the time came, her identity was not just about who she was privately. It became about what she was willing to stand for publicly. Joseph was not recognized in the pit. He was not celebrated in the prison. He was not understood by the people closest to him. But the hidden years did not cancel the dream. They formed the person who could carry it. And that is the pattern, chosen one. The hidden place is not always punishment. Sometimes it is protection. Sometimes it is preparation. Sometimes it is the sacred space where your identity learns not to depend on applause. Because if your identity needs applause to feel real, it will also collapse under criticism. But when identity is formed in secret, it can stand in public without begging the crowd to confirm it. This is why the season you hated may have been more important than you knew. The season when nobody clapped. The season when people misunderstood you. The season when you had to be alone with your thoughts. The season when old friendships shifted. The season when doors stayed closed. The season when you felt like life was moving for everyone except you. You thought that season was proof that nothing was happening. But something was happening. Roots were happening. Discernment was happening. Boundaries were happening. Humility was happening. Strength was happening. A quieter, deeper, truer identity was happening. And now the question is, how do you live from it? Because recognition alone is not enough. You can feel inspired and still return to the old pattern. You can cry during a message and still wake up tomorrow answering to the same false name. You can realize the truth and still avoid the choices that truth requires. So let this become practical. The first thing you must practice is what I call the false name audit. Not with paper, not with performance. Inside yourself. When an old reaction rises, ask quietly, whose voice does this sound like? Does this fear sound like my deepest knowing? Or does it sound like someone who made me feel unsafe? Does this shame sound like truth? Or does it sound like a season where I was not loved well? Does this need to explain myself sound like clarity? Or does it sound like the old terror of being misunderstood? Does this urge to shrink sound like wisdom? Or does it sound like a room where my light was punished? That question alone can begin separating the wound from the soul, because not every thought in your mind deserves to be treated as your identity. Some thoughts are echoes. Some thoughts are old rooms. Some thoughts are borrowed fears. Some thoughts are the residue of people who had access to your heart, but not the capacity to honor it. The second practice is the resonance check. Inside yourself, begin noticing what expands you and what reduces you. What makes your spirit breathe? What makes your inner voice become clearer? What brings peace without making you numb? What challenges you without making you feel erased? And on the other side, what makes you perform? What makes you betray your own knowing? What makes you feel like you have to become less honest to stay connected? What makes your body feel like it is bracing for impact, even when nothing obvious is happening? Chosen one, your life has been speaking to you. Your peace has been speaking. Your exhaustion has been speaking. Your discomfort has been speaking. Your desire for truth has been speaking. The question is whether you will keep calling those messages inconvenient or finally start treating them as guidance. The third practice is the permission protocol. This is where you stop waiting for the world to approve the version of you that no longer fits the old story. You give yourself permission to become true before everyone understands it. You give yourself permission to change your pace. You give yourself permission to become less available to what drains you. You give yourself permission to stop auditioning for love. You give yourself permission to be misunderstood without rushing to rescue your image. You give yourself permission to carry peace, even when other people preferred you anxious, reactive, and easy to control. And if your spirit needs a simple sentence to hold on to, let it be this: I am allowed to become true. If this message is speaking to you, you can place that in the comments. I am allowed to become true, not as a performance, not as a slogan, as a marker, as a quiet agreement with the part of you that is done living under a false name. Because there is something powerful about speaking agreement when the old identity is trying to pull you back. And now we have to return to the static, because earlier we talked about the signal, the original self, the deeper knowing, the part of you that has been buried under fear, pressure, survival, and mental noise. For many chosen ones, the problem is not that they have no gift. The problem is that the gift is trying to speak through a system that has been trained to survive instead of receive. Your mind may be tired from years of bracing. Your attention may be scattered from years of pressure. Your intuition may feel buried beneath noise. Your creativity may feel locked behind a door you cannot quite open. You may know you were made for more, but when you sit with that truth, your mind becomes foggy, restless, or distracted. That is not always a lack of faith. Sometimes it is a tired inner system that has forgotten what alignment feels like. And this is why some people use tools to support the process of returning to clarity. Not to replace prayer, not to replace healing, not to replace wise choices, not to replace discipline, but to support the inner environment where clarity can rise again. There is a simple 7-minute audio experience called The Genius Song that was created around the idea of helping the mind return to a clearer, more awakened state through sound-based brain entrainment. Think of it like this. If your mind has been like a radio stuck between stations, the point is not to blame the radio. The point is to help it tune back to the signal. The Genius Song is designed as a 7-minute listening ritual. using sound to gently support the brain state connected with focus, flow, intuition, and clearer inner processing. And I want to be very clear. This is not magic. It is not a promise that one audio track will fix your entire life. It does not do your healing for you. It does not make choices for you. It does not replace the inner work we have been talking about. But for those who feel like their gift is buried beneath fog, survival, and static, it may become a supportive tool in the process of returning to the clarity that was always meant to be yours. There is a story that captures this well. A teacher in her 40s had spent years helping other people grow, while feeling like her own mind was running at a fraction of its strength. She described it as if her thoughts were moving through thick glass. She was functioning, but not flowing, giving, but not receiving, present for everyone else, but disconnected from the sharper, more alive version of herself. After using the 7-minute listening ritual consistently, what she noticed first was not some dramatic explosion. It was clarity. Ideas returned. Decisions she had postponed for months became easier to face. The mental fog began to lift enough for her to recognize that she had not lost herself. She had been buried under noise. That is the point. Not hype, not pressure, recognition. Some people spend hundreds of dollars on sessions or thousands on complicated devices trying to access deeper focus and brain state training. The Genius song was created to make that kind of support much simpler through a 7-minute audio you can listen to with headphones. The original price is $49, but the special access connected with this message brings it down to $39. And with it, there are additional bonuses included, along with a money-back guarantee. So if it does not feel right for you, you are not trapped. Again, do not approach it from pressure. Approach it with discernment. If your spirit feels no pull toward it, let it pass. But if something in you has been saying, I need help clearing the static, I need something simple, I need a way to support my focus, my flow, my intuition, and my return to clarity, then you can explore the information through the link placed beneath this message and in the pinned comment. Use the official link only. There are many imitations and copied pages around products like this, and the safest way to make sure you are seeing the correct version, the included bonuses, and the guarantee is to go through the official link provided here. And whether you choose to use that tool or not, please hear the deeper truth. The tool is not your identity. The audio is not your calling. The support is not the source of your worth. It is only a possible aid for the person who is ready to clear enough noise to hear what has been there all along. Because the real miracle is not that something outside you gives you a new identity. The real miracle is that the false identity begins losing its authority and the true one starts becoming undeniable. That is what this whole message has been leading you toward. You are not here to live as the echo of what hurt you. You are not here to keep performing the version of yourself that made other people comfortable. You are not here to stay loyal to a name that pain gave you. You are not here to shrink your discernment, soften your truth, silence your voice, or bury your light, just to remain acceptable in places that never knew how to love the real you. You are here to remember. You are here to return. You are here to rise from the false agreement and live from the deeper name that was written over your life before the world ever tried to rename you. And now, without moving your body, I want you to take one final inner action. Imagine again that covered mirror from earlier, but this time you are not standing far away from it. You are close enough to see the outline of your own reflection beneath the covering. On that covering are all the names you have carried. Rejected, too sensitive, not ready, too late, difficult, invisible, broken, behind, unworthy. Now imagine that each word begins to lose its ink, not because you fought it, not because you argued with it, not because you convinced everyone to understand you, but because it was never the final truth. The words fade, the covering becomes lighter, and beneath it, the mirror begins to clear. You do not see a stranger. You see the self that has been waiting, the one who survived but was not created only to survive. The one who felt deeply, but was not created to drown in feeling. The one who saw truth, but was not created to carry everyone's darkness. The one who walked through rejection, but was not created to live rejected. The one who was hidden, but was not created to remain unseen forever. And in that inner place, let this sentence rise. I remember who I am. Let it be quiet. Let it be steady. Let it be enough. I remember who I am. Not because every question is answered. Not because every door is open. Not because every person understands. Not because the fear has completely disappeared, but because the false name no longer gets to be the loudest voice in the room. Chosen one. I hear the Spirit saying this, for the one who has been tired of carrying a version of themselves that no longer fits. I did not create you to survive under a false name. I did not form you so fear could define you. I did not preserve you through hidden seasons so you could come out and keep apologizing for the light I protected. Stand up inside yourself again. Not outwardly, not loudly, inside. Let your spirit stand. Let the part of you that has been bowed under shame rise inside. Let the part of you that has been waiting for permission receive it now. Let the part of you that has been afraid of being seen understand that visibility does not have to mean danger when it is carried with wisdom. Let the part of you that has been exhausted from pretending lay down the performance. You do not have to become loud to become true. You do not have to become perfect to become free. You do not have to become understood by everyone to become whole. You do not have to become fearless to become faithful to your own becoming. The old identity may still try to speak. It may still whisper, "Who do you think you are?" And when it does, do not panic. Do not argue. Do not spiral. Just answer from the deeper place. I am not who pain named me. I am not who rejection reduced me to. I am not who fear trained me to be. I am not the mask. I am not the wound. I am not the delay. I am not the misunderstanding. I am the one who is remembering. I am the one who is returning. I am the one who is becoming true. And from this moment forward, let your life begin agreeing with that. Not in one dramatic leap, in small, faithful ways. Choose one honest sentence instead of one old performance. Choose one boundary instead of one silent resentment. Choose one moment of trust instead of one familiar fear. Choose one step toward clarity instead of one more day of hiding behind confusion. Choose one act of alignment instead of one more agreement with the false self. That is how identity becomes embodied, not through noise, through agreement, not through performance, through practice, not through proving, through returning. And there will come a day, chosen one, when you look back at the version of yourself that was so afraid to be seen, and you will not hate them. You will thank them. You will say, "You protected me when I did not know how to protect myself. You carried me through seasons I did not understand. You helped me survive, but you are not the one who has to lead anymore." And then you will turn toward the truer self, the clearer self, the grounded self, the self that can love without disappearing, the self that can speak without begging, the self that can give without self-erasing, the self that can be alone without feeling abandoned, the self that can be seen without surrendering its center. And you will understand why the journey took so long. You were not just waiting for a door. You were becoming the person who could walk through it without losing yourself. That is your true identity, not a fantasy, not a performance, not an ego title, not a temporary emotional high. It is the sacred agreement between who you were created to be and who you are finally willing to become. So if this message found the part of you that has been buried, comment this sentence as a marker. I remember who I am. Let it be a witness. Let it be a quiet line in the sand. Let it be your way of saying, the false name does not own me anymore. And if you know someone who has been living under a name that pain gave them, send this to them, not to pressure them, not to fix them, but to remind them that sometimes a person does not need another lecture. Sometimes they need a mirror. Chosen one, your true identity shocked you because it was never as far away as you feared. It was beneath the survival, beneath the static, beneath the fear, beneath the false names, beneath the old agreements, waiting, breathing, still alive. And now that you have seen it, do not go back to the old mirror and pretend you are only what happened to you. You are not. You are the one who survived what tried to name you. You are the one who is clearing the static. You are the one who is returning to the signal. You are the one who is allowed to become true. And the shock was never that you changed. The shock was that, deep down, you were this all along.